When Chuck Jones and Michael Maltese started on what's known as the Hunter Trilogy, which is Rabbit Fire, Rabbit Seasoning, and Duck Rabbit Duck, where Elmer, Bugs, and Daffy all appear in the same cartoon.
I say it's duck season, and I say fire!
I think it came for a number of reasons. First of all, Daffy's character was evolving.
Daffy Duck would be a silly thing being hunted by hunters, and he would go woo, 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 woo. Splashing across a pond or something. The transition came that the writers tend to say, well, we can't just have him bouncing around all the time being crazy. So they came up with the idea of making Daffy Duck a greedy duck.
There had been some earlier cartoons like You Were Never Duckier and A Pest in the House, where Daffy was still obnoxious, you know, and still boisterous, but he was starting to have a greedy edge.
It's a different Daffy. This was like the birth of a totally new character.
He's a funny character, but he's not Daffy. The word Daffy does not literally describe him anymore. But the 40s cartoons, he's Daffy. That's what he is. He's nuts.
I am a duck, bent on self-preservation.
Bugs Bunny then became a straight man. He was the cool, relaxed guy, nothing fazed him.
In Chuck's hands, he became less like Daffy and a little more assured, a little more confident, a little more, I'm the guy who's in control of the situation.
Look, Doc, are you looking for trouble? I'm not a stewing Wabbit. I'm a fricasseeing Wabbit.
And so as those two characters were evolving that way with Chuck and Michael's collaboration, it probably seemed natural to put them together and see what happened.
Survival of the fittest. And besides, it's fun.
There's just so much potential when you have a fall guy like Daffy, just Mr. In Control, Bugs, and Elmer, who's just there stirring the cauldron.
He doesn't seem like the type that would be a hunter. He's got his gun and he's going after rabbits, but he isn't sure which is a rabbit and which is a, you know, he gets confused.
Rabbit season, huh? Having any luck?
Well, no. As a matter of fact, I haven't even seen a Wabbit yet.
He's thick-witted, yet he is malicious in a lot of ways. He doesn't really care who he shoots as long as he shoots something.
It's clear that he is malleable enough to be influenced by both Bugs and Daffy, except Bugs knows how to manipulate him to his advantage, and Daffy knows that Elmer is stupid enough to be manipulated, but he says the wrong thing. And I think that's really the dynamic.
I guess I'm the goat. What?
Well, the hunting concept had been established, and Chuck and Michael Maltese just took it to this extraordinary level in the verbal sparring.
You're a dirty dog. And you are a dirty skunk.
There's so many verbal intricacies in those cartoons.
The classic example is the one in Rabbit Seasoning about pronoun trouble.
Let's run through that again. Okay. Would you like to shoot me now or wait till you get home? Shoot him now. Shoot him now. You keep out of this. He doesn't have to shoot you now. Ha! That's it. Hold it right there. Pronoun trouble.
You didn't expect to hear that phrase in a cartoon, you know. That's certainly not sort of the dialogue that would go on in a Foghorn Leghorn cartoon.
The dialogue is just extraordinary, impeccable. Preston Sturges or Billy Wilder couldn't have done these better. Michael Maltese really was at his zenith when he wrote these cartoons.
Chuck Jones was rightly praised as the director, but what people forget, it was a partnership. A lot of the ideas that Chuck brought to life so skillfully were Mike Maltese's ideas. Maltese was an amazingly skilled and diverse writer, and he was always looking for new influences and new ways to get a joke. Sometimes it would be a very physical bit of business, such as in the Roadrunner cartoons. Other times it would be just brilliant wordplay.
That, sir, is an investigated fabrication.
The playful banter between them, it was like listening to a very skilled comedy team trying to one-up each other.
It's like a vaudeville joke where it's go back and forth, and then Bugs says, rabbit season. And he goes, duck season, and then,
this time you start it. Whatever you say. Wabbit. Duck, fire!
And I love it how his bill would go around his head circularly.
How many times can his bill be blown off his head, and in how many different directions? For me, it's not a joke that gets old.
When Elmer shoots Daffy and he does this placid take, it has to be just so long. If it lingered too long, it wouldn't be funny anymore. If it went by too fast, it wouldn't seep in, and you wouldn't have the enjoyment of the gag. Chuck Jones knew that. He knew how to make the most of that. So it's a wonderful collaboration between writer and director.
When I was laying out the picture and timing it and breaking it down into scenes, I just write the dialogue over the character. What was he doing at the time he's saying the line? So I'd write that. Then when I finished the entire picture, then I would call in a secretary and ask her just to write it down and say what Bugs was saying. So that the final thing was just a dialogue script, really. Mel never saw the pictures until, or any other actor ever saw the pictures until about an hour before we recorded them. We'd call them over, and then I'd take my drawings and go through the entire picture. I'd do Bugs Bunny, and he'd do Daffy Duck. And then I'd do Daffy Duck, and he'd do Bugs Bunny, see.
I laugh at those cartoons, and they're brilliantly animated. There's some acting in those cartoons that just floors me.
He does so have to shoot me now. I demand that you shoot me now.
But those wordplay things that go back and forth, no way would Daffy Duck fall for that. All Bugs does in those cartoons is go like this. And that's it. That dooms Daffy Duck. Daffy Duck loses every time Bugs Bunny makes a wry expression. You buy it because you've already seen a million Bugs Bunny cartoons. You've seen the 40s Bugs Bunny cartoons where they firmly established his character as a guy that would generally win.
The time they made those, there was no thought of a trilogy. It just happened that Mike Maltese came up with a funny gag with Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck, and it was successful. And then maybe another cartoon later, Mike Maltese resurrected it and said, hey, why don't we go back and do something similar? And so they did that maybe 2 or 3 times. Maybe they had a lot of gags left over from one. They said, gee, let's do another one and use those gags in the other one.
It just made a good conflict, see, that it just made a good story point, and it made good avenue for gags.
There was a lot of mileage to be gained from the characters not being crazy all the time. And I think that's one reason that these particular ideas of their personalities stuck. So you have cartoons like Friz Freeling's Showbiz Bugs, or A Star is Bored, you know, where Daffy basically wants to be the star and Bugs is.
Boy, listen to that! They love me!
They used it on the Bugs Bunny TV show. They used it as a framework for several shows and got a lot of mileage out of it because it worked. It was just a great device.
There is a moment in I think, all 3 of cartoons where there is like a little temporary truce between them, where they're hiding out from Elmer, or they team up to pull a gag on him or something. It's fun seeing them team up, but, you know, the truce is invariably shattered when it looks like they're both going to get it, in which Daffy will immediately turn on Bugs.
That's what comedy is. It's the misfortune, maybe, of characters who are out to get each other. I guess it was vaudeville that started all of that, and so it carries on today.
You're despicable.